Thanks for tuning into this video. I hope by now, if you're an adult, you're really fired up that you just enrolled in some classes. I also hope that if you're an adult, you're just a little bit sore, or maybe for some of you a lot sore. For the young people, I hope you're excited and you're meeting new friends and starting to enjoy yourself. The purpose of this video is to get you started on the right track and really understand the system that we use. So the first thing I want you to know is that we want to contrast two different kinds of people that study the martial arts. There are those who take classes, they take martial arts, and then there are those versus those who study. And while there's only an inch or two difference between those two words, it might as well be the Grand Canyon, the difference between these two groups. And this is true of anything that you get involved in life. You see, here in the West, there's this perspective that what happens is we have a subject or we have a teacher. He kind of sits up here like the sun, and he sort of shines his rays down on the students, and the students sort of sit passively in their chairs. And by osmosis, they're going to learn. And from your life experience, I think you can realize that it almost never actually works this way. In order for you to be successful, you have to be completely immersed in the teaching. So when you walk in the mall or you go anywhere and you run into people who say, oh yes, I used to take martial arts, I didn't go very far with it, or I did martial arts once. 9 times out of 10, you're talking to someone who took martial arts as opposed to someone who actually studied martial arts. So our goal for all of our students is to transition you from somebody that just signed up for classes to becoming really a student of martial arts, because some of the greatest benefits that you'll ever get from this program are all in this category. And it's a relatively easy thing to do because it can happen relatively quickly. So in order to understand the program itself, I'm going to write a quick arrow chart for you so that you get a feel for sort of this continuum of study. And this is true of adults, and it's also true for young people as well. Basically, if you follow your martial arts progress over a line, this is the point in that line when people very first begin their classes. And along this chart, there's basically 3 stops. Now, there are hundreds of stops along the way, but this is a good generalization for most people. Usually early on, we have what we call our first stop, and this usually occurs at about 25 classes. Now, this is an example. It could be for some people 30 classes, it could be for some people 20 classes, but 25 is pretty fair. At this point, I'm going to put a little star here, is really where you become a student. This is marked by the physical benefits that you get out of practice. So the first thing that you're going to notice if you're an adult, you're going to be able to go up and down stairs easier than you have probably in years. Getting in and out of the car is going to be easier. You're going to become more agile, more flexible. You may not want to throw any of those jeans away that maybe aren't fitting anymore, because you're going to start seeing some changes in your physiology that may even affect the way you look. This is an incredible jump from when you start to where you get to this level. And the vast majority of people that stop practicing martial arts drop out between the first class and the 25th one. And I believe at the 25th line, this is where you really become a student of martial arts. So the first goal that we want every single student, whether you're an adult, whether you're a child student, it doesn't make any difference to us, is we want to set a goal for 25 classes. Now, this 25th class also marks the requirement for what we call white sash for adults, or white belt for young people. And there is a test. It certainly will not be the hardest test that you ever take, but it is a physical test. It's more based on your ability to have decent enough cardio, good enough movement, and those kinds of things. And I can tell you that if you get to a white belt in our program, it means that you have now become someone who is studying martial arts. So what we want you to do is we want everyone to set a committed goal to those 25 classes. And that's when you're going to really know whether martial arts is really going to be the thing for you or not, right? Now, along this line, I'm going to give you a quick preview of things to come. If you go a little bit further down the line, at right around 100 classes, this is when powerful self-defense benefits really kick in. This is when you can begin to know that you can take care of yourself and take care of those that are around you. Now, people will say to me all the time, Sensei, does it really matter? I've never been in a fight. I don't intend on. I don't want my young people doing any of that. And boy, we sure agree with that. And you'll hear us talk about that all the time on the mats. But I always point out a little study that they did at a major university a few years ago. They did a 50-50 double-blind study. And what they did was they took a group of people and they told them that they were going to be testing out a new three-dimensional video game system. They took one group, they put them in a room, and they put an Oculus Rift type headset on them, and it gave them a three-dimensional experience of what they said was going to be a video game, and they got to pretend to be, if I can draw the S, Superman. In other words, they got to fly around the city. They even got to smash through a few brick walls, but they got to be Superman. They took another group, and they said this group was going to be doing the video game system too. They didn't tell them the difference between the two, but this group got to go through nature. And it was very pleasant and very beautiful with the birds and the deer and the butterfly and so on. And they had them experience this for 15 minutes each. Then what they did is they took both groups into an office with what they called a controller. This was the guy that was going to interview them on how the video game systems work. So what he did was he had a cup of pencils nearby, and early into the interview, he would accidentally drop the pencils off the table. And what they found, and you may have even guessed it, is that the people that had been Superman for 15 minutes were almost 80% more likely to help pick up those pencils. So when we talk about the internal benefits of martial arts, what we're saying is that when you can really defend yourself and take care of those that you love, it almost always not only makes you a more peaceful person, a more confident person, but also makes you a nicer person too. So that's a huge benefit, and that would be another goal. And then finally, way down the road, we see this usually at the 400 or 500 class level, and you can see by looking at the sign-in sheets the people that are there, and you can also see without looking at the sign-in sheets by just watching how great their technique is. This is when martial arts begins to be assimilated into your life and teach you the mental discipline that is the hallmark of true martial arts. And at these levels, we say your word becomes law. In other words, when you get the deepest and the most esoteric benefits of the arts, which does not take an overnight thing. We don't care what belt this is, by the way. This is not necessarily a black belt. This isn't necessarily a brown belt. We don't care what belt this is. But what we do care about is that you put the time in and put the effort in and become the true martial artist that you're capable of. So let me leave you with this. Right now, we're early in our practice. You just signed up. Let's set that first goal of 25 classes. There's an online form that you can fill out. Get that in writing and get also the clipboard that's up at the front of the dojo signed and get that date in your calendar and make a commitment to it so that you can be one of those people who can really genuinely say to your friends that you are studying martial arts, not just one of the masses that took some lessons. Thanks a lot for listening. I'm going to see you on the mats very soon.